I'm Mary Tyler, the Executive Director of NCCJ, and I want to thank you for joining us this evening. This is our 35th annual NCCJ Friendship Dinner. It took a great deal of work to create this wonderful event, and from my vantage point, it was well worth it. You look absolutely fabulous. Now, I want to ask for your help to make the welcome heartfelt and a little extraordinary. So I'd like you to turn to someone at your table and say with the right spirit and even a little attitude, "Welcome, you look absolutely fabulous." You did that so well. You did that so well. Now you have to do it one more time. Turn to someone else and say the same thing with the same rich spirit. All right, they told me I have to regain control. Now, please join me in giving yourselves a resounding applause for being here. We do have a few elected officials with us tonight, and I know that County Commissioner Judy Dodge is here. I saw Carolyn Rice's name from the Montgomery County Department, the treasurer, and so if there's others, would you please stand so that we may acknowledge you and thank you for your service to the community. Thank you so very much. Although this is the 35th annual friendship dinner, I understand that there are some of you who have never attended one of the dinners or maybe somewhat unfamiliar with NCCJ. So if this is your first time attending an NCCJ dinner or being exposed to the organization, just raise your hand so we might see the first timers. Welcome to you. And we want to say, after tonight, you will be hooked. It's such an honor to serve as the Executive Director of NCCJ, and I have the privilege of using my gifts and talents to help create an inclusive and just community. This is such an amazing organization. After a rich and fulfilling United Way career as President and CEO in North Carolina, I returned home to fulfill the plan and purpose for my life. Being home has given me the opportunity to be with family, reconnect with colleagues and good friends, and even meet some incredible new friends. For some of those, they include the team that I work with every day, and I know you're in the room, so you need to be positioned. I want to acknowledge the members of the NCCJ staff right away. First, they include Susan Siving, who recently retired and could not be with us this evening. Jeanette Taylor. Jeanette, could you please stand? Adrian Miller, our newest member. Joan Eckert, many of you talk to on the phone and always talk about how lovely she is on the phone. And Marianne Oppenheimer. We also have several associates who help deliver various training modules throughout the year. So I want to say a special thank you to each of them. Thank you. Before I relinquish the podium, I want to remind you that your parking is complimentary tonight. And for those of you who've been looking for your ticket, you don't need a ticket tonight. Just exit the garage. Providing an important role is the mistress of ceremony. We have a wonderful friend who agreed to be part of tonight's celebration. This is a person of grace, intelligence, enormous talent, generosity, and much style. Please join me as we welcome Marcia Barnhart, news anchor for 2 News at WDTN.
Hello, good evening. Glad to be here, certainly. This is my first time on this side of the podium. I've attended the dinner many times, but I've always been out there, and this time I'm looking at you guys. So I'm very excited to be here, and I do appreciate being given the opportunity. Over the years, I've been in awe of the remarkable presence and impact of NCCJ. It's certainly, definitely among the well-respected organizations in this community, and this evening is extremely special. It's an opportunity to recognize some outstanding people, and these are the folks that have certainly made an impact in this region. So I'd like to extend my congratulations to the Humanitarian Award recipients. It's my pleasure now to welcome Sister Carol Bauer. She is the chair of the NCCJ Board of Directors. And just to let you know that each time someone is introduced, I just found out the other day that when you applaud, you lose about 5 calories. So we're going to give everybody a rousing round of applause. Sister Carol, please.
We'll see if we can find lots of reasons for you to do that this evening. It is my pleasure to add all of the welcomes so far to the welcome of the Board of Trustees. It is wonderful to see many familiar faces who year after year have come to support the mission and the work of NCCJ. I add the Board of Trustees' special welcome to those of you who are here for the first time. And I would be remiss not to take this moment to ask the members of the Board of Trustees who are here to stand up for a minute so that we have a chance not just to lose a few calories, but to thank them for their generous and committed service. So would my fellow board members, please. What is also wonderful is I see many of our colleagues and former board members. I see many of our former honorees. But tonight I want to issue a very special congratulations. It is a privilege to be able each year to say thank you to some outstanding and generous people from our community who each day make such a difference. So it's a pleasure to have you here. And we will indeed have some fun. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Carol. Now, with every major event, committed and effective leadership is certainly vital. So it is a joy at this moment to introduce our dinner co-chairs, Mary Busalas of Premier Health Partners and David Mellon of PNC Bank.
Good evening. We are thrilled to be here, and in light of the debates tonight, Dave and I are going to keep our remarks to 45 minutes each. So,
I'd like to interrupt.
We are just delighted to be here for the second year as co-chairs for this fabulous event. And Dave, I think we either didn't get it right the first time and they've given us a second chance, or we shall see. But I really believe this is a record year and a record night for a very good reason. We had a fantastic committee. And I would like all the members of our committee, I'd love to give you a whole bio, but if you would just stand and be acknowledged, I would appreciate it greatly. The other thing I would tell you most sincerely, I've been involved in a lot of events, and this staff is one of the best I've ever seen. It is a well-orchestrated machine. They know what they're doing, and they made it so very easy. For Dave and myself, it was a joy to work with each and every one of them. And when you think about the change in leadership with Pat Meadows stepping down and Mary stepping up, it's just amazing. Very appreciative of that. There are several other individuals and businesses that helped make this event possible. They gave in-kind support or hours of their time and talent, and I think it's important to acknowledge them. They are Beth Adelman, Elaine Bettman, Marcia, you're always spectacular. She's our mistress of ceremonies for the evening. Mary Brooks, Helen Gray, Morning Sun Florists, they provided the flowers worn by the honorees. Roberta Walker, and Wright State University. And I'd like to give a special thank you to Sean Baker and Ann Rodolante, who produced the videos, which I think are going to be very inspiring for the evening. So please just join me in one more round of applause to these individuals. And with that, I'm going to cut my speech short and turn it over to Dave.
Thanks, Mary, and it was truly a pleasure to do a second year, but now we're going to pass the baton on to two other lucky candidates. But I'd like to echo Mary's comments. We have an outstanding committee, and I would encourage all of you to consider joining the group when planning for next year's event. The work at NCCJ is so vital to our community. We believe in and support the important work being done to increase our awareness of cultural differences, value each other's opinions, and help as we understand the importance of creating access for everyone. Our job was made very easy because many business leaders know of that respect the work of NCCJ. This year was a record year for us. We set a record last year, and as all great leaders, we stepped up to the challenge, as all of you did, and exceeded last year's results. So with that, I want to recognize some of our presenting sponsors for this evening. CareSource, Dana's Building Construction, Dayton Power and Light, Friend Freeze and Arnold, Miller Valentine, PNC Financial Group, Premier Health Partners, Sinclair Community College, and the University of Dayton. And I also want to thank our honoree reception and media sponsor, Morris Furniture Company. Our champion sponsors are Children's Medical Center, City of Dayton Police Department, J.P. Morgan Chase, Kettering Health Network, LexisNexis, MetLife, Thompson Hine, Wilmer Hale, and Wright State University. So could we please give a round of applause for all of our sponsors? I also would like to give special thanks to the Dayton Area Chamber of Commerce for supporting the sponsor of the Greater Dayton Workplace Award. So that'll be part of our program this evening. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Marcia.
Special presentation from Sister Carol.
We just want to take this opportunity to thank both of these people who have made such a difference on our dinner for the last couple of years, and we want to offer a simple token to say that thank you and to remind them of our gratitude.
I'd like to introduce Michael Rediger, the NCCJ Vice Chair, who's going to lead us in the invocation.
Good evening. If you'd please join me in a moment of reflection. Creator who is called by many names, we sit before you tonight as a community unified in mission and cause to create a just and equitable world for all. We pray to you not as individuals, but rather as a family of women, men, and children dedicated to ending bias, bigotry, and racism. We celebrate what makes others different from ourselves, whether by religion or race, age or ability, sexual orientation, or even political party. Our unique qualities make each and every one of us special. Allow this food to nourish our bodies to do the good work of the National Conference for Community and Justice. Tonight, we celebrate many NCCJ honorees. We strive to reflect their righteousness in all that we do. Provide us the strength to take a stand for those without a voice or living with discrimination. Thank you for NCCJ's many friends, staff, volunteers, and students. May they go forward to spread the mission of NCCJ. Continue to watch over the many men and women who protect our country, return them home safe to their loved ones. Finally, we ask that each person here tonight be inspired to make a positive difference in the life of at least one child, so that we all commit to teach love and respect of those who do not look, sound, or pray like us. Amen.
For 35 years, the National Conference for Community and Justice, also known as NCCJ, has worked diligently to eliminate discrimination at all levels. This is an opportunity to celebrate the tremendous impact NCCJ has had on individuals and organizations we touched this past year. The dictionary defines impact as the effect or impression of one thing on another. It's also the impression made by an idea, cultural movement, or social group. We take great pride in our ability to promote understanding and respect among all races, religions, and cultures through advocacy, conflict resolution, and education opportunities, all of which is good news for our community. The work of NCCJ remains relevant to building a strong and vibrant community. The support received from individuals, foundations, corporations, and other organizations has been instrumental in allowing our services to continue. We were able to deliver a vast number of learning experiences throughout the Miami Valley and look forward to expanding our capacity in the new year. Through our renowned Anytown Youth Leadership Institute, a diverse group of high school student delegates spent a week addressing societal issues of race, culture, gender, religion, and economic status.
It was one of the most powerful weeks of my life. And I learned so much about people and myself, and I can't explain how much of an impact this had on me.
This diverse group of delegates represented various backgrounds and experiences and included Caucasian and Latino youth, African American students, and young people from China, Cambodia, Turkey, and Trinidad. Over the course of our week-long residential program, the delegates realized that they have the ability and responsibility to be the change they want to see in the world. This program has impacted the lives of the delegates in ways we have yet to discover.
That one week, that one special week changed my life in a way I never thought I could. I went there not knowing anything, and I left with a whole new mindset of how the world works.
I learned a lot about myself going into Anytown, things that I had buried deep within me that I don't think I would have ever discovered had it not been for Anytown. I find myself teaching other people, or at least spreading my knowledge. I don't expect other people to understand the way I do, but It's something that I can share. It's something that I can spread. At any time they told us that knowledge is power, and it's our responsibility to spread that knowledge.
Our society is getting a little bit more accepting and tolerant as time passes, but this camp, for me, it was just an unbelievable catalyst for that process. I became a person that I never thought I'd be. I became, I was that person who would stick up for people. Like, I didn't think I would ever be that person, and now when I see people around me just judging other people and hurting other people with their words and with the looks on their faces, it hurts me, and I try to heal other people. I'm making people feel like they should, which is okay. I'm making people feel like they're accepted, and that's just how my personality is now. And before, maybe it was something different, but I like who I am now a lot more.
I know on the first day of school, we were told in English class to express our opinions. What we were talking about was the American dream, what the American dream was. And I was thinking it's something positive. I was thinking something positive. And this was after Anytown. And everyone else was thinking negative thoughts about it. And I wanted to share that, but I didn't know how. And I knew my voice was shaking when I got up and I shared. But I did. It was really, really, really hard. Everyone looked at me funny. But I knew I had to share that because I didn't want them to only think negative thoughts about the world. Because after Anytown, I decided I should get my voice heard, even if it's hard for me. Because if I don't do it, then it might not ever happen.
Another NCCJ education experience known as Spidey, Students Promoting Inclusion, Diversity, and Equity in Education, is currently offered in the Yellow Springs schools. Spidey is designed to work with high school students to overcome bias, bigotry, and prejudice, and teaches them to work with elementary school students, specifically 6th graders, to promote diversity, inclusion, and respect among their peers. It is so gratifying to hear from parents and teachers sharing their amazement about the impact this program has had on the students. The youth involved in Spidey provide inspiration and represent hope for the future. Police and Youth Together, or PAYT, showcased another impactful learning experience which NCCJ offered to 10 to 12-year-old youth.
They kind of warmed up to him, and it went from, the big old mean Mr. Cops to, the friendly cop that's out there trying to help you out.
More than 40 youth from diverse communities, law enforcement officers, and NCCJ volunteers and staff spent a week helping each other improve relationships.
It teaches youth a number of things about how policemen are, how we are approachable.
The first exercise that we did, a lot of kids were kind of reluctant to work with the police officers, and at times they were even reluctant to stand next to them. It changed by the time that we got to the last exercise. You had kids who were basically like, they couldn't leave the police officers alone. They couldn't walk 2 steps without, being swarmed by just like a group of kids. This program has helped to kind of change and influence, the minds of those young kids and show them, that, police officers are really there to help out.
And I like the activities and the people who are there and the kids and the games and stuff. I learned don't play with guns and how not to bully and stuff like that.
If I can reach a couple kids a year, 1 kid a year, hey, I'm all for it.
NCCJ's footprints go far beyond the schools. Our work is vital to the workplace and is based on decades of research and experience.
NCCJ really came in and was kind of that unbiased, third party and did not pass judgment on the company.
Through our work, we add value by helping businesses and organizations explore new ways to incorporate inclusion learning experiences into their business plans and produce superior results for the organization.
Initially, we thought from an HR perspective, we knew what the issues were. But it wasn't until we bought that cross-functional team and we had the facilitator and the advisor from NCCJ that really brought to light what the issues really are that we need to try to address and tackle. A large bit of what I do is trying to develop relationships. And what that means is I try to get individuals to work together that may not prefer to do so. And working with the NCCJ has given me some tools to overcome barriers and obstacles and formulate better relationships. Because at the end of the day, that's how we get things done. It's through people and it's through relationships.
Creating a unified community where all can experience the benefits is fundamental to a thriving region, state, and nation. Our country was built on the promise of freedom, liberty, and opportunity for everyone. We understand that this work can sometimes be challenging and emotional, but it's necessary. We know that diversity creates unity, and unity creates opportunities. NCCJ will continue its work in making a meaningful impact on the world, helping to create a just and inclusive community that will transcend generations.
Our first award this evening is the Greater Dayton Workplace Diversity Award. This award recognizes a business or organization for its contribution to diversity and inclusion. I now invite Mary Tyler, Executive Director of NCCJ, Phil Parker, President of the Dayton Area Chamber of Commerce, and William L. Gillespie, Co-Chair of the Dayton Foundation's Commission on Minority Inclusion, to make this presentation. Last year's recipient of the Diversity Award was Goodwill Easter Seals. President and CEO Amy Luttrell is not in town this evening. She could not be here tonight, but she sends her congratulations. Tonight, we honor LexisNexis as the recipient of the 2012 Greater Dayton Workplace Diversity Award. And now we're going to take a look at a video interview with Alice Clark, the Vice President of Human Relations at LexisNexis.
LexisNexis has a long history of acquiring businesses and merging with businesses, and over the years we have found that because of the different cultures of innovation and entrepreneurship, that we have tried to really maintain those cultures as we've integrated those businesses into our company. It's very much been part of our DNA, if you will. A culture of diversity, diversity of thought, diversity of lifestyle, just diversity in general. And we find that through that kind of diversity, we get the best ideas, the best innovations, and as a business, it helps us succeed. We have always supported our employees' diversity. We have stood up a number of what we call employee resource groups, and those are groups where employees of like-minded ethnicity or lifestyles can get together and support each other in the community. Over the last several years, we've stood up employee resource groups around the African American Network, the Women's Connected Network. Our most recent ERG is the Pride Network that represents LGBT employees and their families. And we always ensure that every ERG has an executive sponsor, and that executive sponsor participates in guiding the ERG. ERGs are required to stand up a leadership team and have a charter so that all employees know what their purpose is for the business. And then we ensure that they have budget dollars to support the activities that they might want to undertake in the course of any given year. Very often organizations will say that they will do these things or support diversity, but they don't necessarily back it up with the resources that employees need to really take advantage of that. And we have heard time and time again that our employees are really proud to work for an organization that values diversity and will act upon those values to support our employees. Globally, diversity is very important to us as a business. We are a global business. We have employees in all parts of the world. And so if we didn't value diversity, we'd have probably other issues to deal with. And so all of our programs, all of our policies, outline just what we expect of our employees in living and leading through those values. And I think when you connect it for employees that way, and then you hold all of your leadership accountable for supporting it. You know, it's like anything. If it's an objective of your business, you're going to do it and you're going to support it. And everything you do will line up against that. For instance, all of the initiatives around human trafficking. We had a wonderful individual join us recently and speak to a number of our employees about just that very issue in Dayton, Ohio. And so when you do those kinds of things as a business, your employees sit there and say, this company really believes this stuff. They take a position and they're willing to stand by their positions to do that. We are incredibly proud to receive this award, how very proud we are in the Dayton community to be a large employer and to support so many employees. And you know, just that it means so much to us as a business to receive this kind of award. We will certainly publicize it and share it with all of our employees.
Now for our next award, the 2012 Youth Leadership Award, presented to Whitney Hoffacker. Helping to present the award is Sister Carol Bauer, Mary Basalis, and Dave Mellon.
I had first become interested in issues of diversity and inclusion when a good friend of mine from high school invited me to go to a youth group of sorts. It was called Youth Quest, and it was young, gay, lesbian, bisexual, and questioning teens and allies. And I didn't know that at the time, but she had wanted me to go, and she didn't want to go by herself. And so I started going with her every week and listened to stories of people my age being bullied and constantly facing harassment and self-hatred. And through time, I watched those stories turn into experiences of friendship and self-love and self-acceptance. And I knew I wanted to be a part of that transition of helping people get there or just facilitating it in some way. I think a lot of my desire to help has come from my parents. They're both nurses, and most people in my family are from the medical field or working in the medical field. So that foundation of compassion, and when someone hurts, you help them. One of my best friends had been a counselor for NCCJ's Anytown Youth Leadership Institute. And it was my freshman year of college. I just completed my first year, and that summer she said they were looking for counselors, and it sounded right up my alley. It was to be a counselor with young people and to help them work through issues of diversity and inclusion and become agents of change. And I thought it was awesome. And I kept doing it and kept doing it. And then, you know, my 7th year, I was the site coordinator for the program. So I just kind of worked my way up, and it's my favorite thing to do in the whole world. The Anytown Youth Leadership Institute is really one of my favorite things that NCCJ does. It starts out with 35 young people, high schoolers, that don't know each other, and they get on this bus and they're all nervous and scared, and they spend a really intense emotional week of learning about each other and loving each other and talking about racism and sexism and classism and heterosexism and what that means for each and every one of us, because it's different for everybody. And by the end of the week, they're hugging and crying and love each other so much, and they're committed to making a difference. It's important for young people to always remember that an alternative is possible. It's very easy to get jaded, and it's very easy to lose hope. But it's possible, and to remind yourself that you never have it all figured out, and to be open to continually growing and adjusting your worldview and your mindset, and getting out of your comfort zone to do that. I think it's important. Always get out of your comfort zone. NCCJ is definitely a love-based organization versus a fear-based, and NCCJ couldn't do what they do without the support of Dayton. One of their mottos is opening minds and changing hearts, and I think that that is crucial. That's definitely something they do very well, and it's something all the curriculum and all their programs really facilitate. So that's something that I think is really important about their work. You know, they get people to have open, honest dialogue. And once you open your mind, your heart opens with it. I'm hoping to really get involved in the nonprofit network. I think there's a lot of bold and innovative organizations, and I want to grow as a leader and as someone involved in social justice. I want to be exposed to new ideas, new methods of doing things, and eventually get my master's in social work. Receiving this award is, of course, an honor. It's also a huge responsibility. You know, sometimes you don't always see yourself as this person that other people do. So I felt, you know, when I was told that I received it, I was like, wow, I really have to continue to step it up and be this person that NCCJ sees me as. And so it's a great motivation, it's a big responsibility, and I'm honored.
Now we are pleased to present the 2012 NCCJ Humanitarian Awards. The first honoree is Patricia Meadows, the former executive director of NCCJ, who just retired earlier this year.
I was exposed to issues of racism as a child when I attended segregated schools for 4 years, but lived in an integrated neighborhood. And of course, in the 5th grade, schools were integrated in West Virginia, and so I began to attend an integrated school, and they began to see me for who I was and what skills and abilities that I had. And so from then on, I've just been committed to inclusion, diversity, and appreciating people for who they are and not what they look like. I've always known about NCCJ, and particularly back when it was the National Conference for Christians and Jews. I knew Carrie Labriola, who was the 2nd executive director, and Sarah Harris, who was the 3rd, and admired them greatly. I was involved in some things with the organization early years. When I returned to Dayton after living in North Carolina, and the position was available and was posted in the newspaper. Because of my interest in inclusion and diversity, it just was a natural to apply, and applied and was blessed to be chosen. What I'm most proud of, and particularly my years here when I worked for NCCJ, was really building a team, having staff, the board of directors and all work alongside me. I can't take credit for what we've been able to do in the community alone. We don't work alone, and I'm just most proud of building a very effective team who really work to get the word out, to provide programs throughout this greater Dayton area. That really is what I'm proud of, that we expanded our outreach and began to raise awareness and to, you know, if you change one heart, I believe you've been successful. You have one person, one ambassador who thinks differently about difference and sees people for who they are and not what they represent by their size, their color, their faith. I'll always be a promoter of inclusion and diversity. It's just a part of me, and I'll continue to take a stand. I feel you have an obligation and responsibility to speak up and to advocate for those who may be disenfranchised and otherwise not included. NCCJ is just, I believe, not because I was in charge for years, but just the mission to fight bias, bigotry, and racism and all other forms of discrimination is just so important to our community. I believe if we could solve some of those issues, then the greater Dayton area and our nation would be a better place for everybody. I'm just truly honored and very surprised. I really did not, it just was the furthest thing from my mind. Of course, I'm delighted and appreciate the acknowledgement by the board and others of my contribution in the community. I owe so many people a lot of gratitude and thanks for what they've meant in my life, but certainly my family, my husband Charles, and my sons and their family and their support of whatever it is that I've been a part of, the many teachers and friends and colleagues throughout this community who have just supported me, funders who have supported NCCJ, and I hope are continuing to do that. They helped me be successful in that leadership role, and I thank them for that.
Please join me in thanking and congratulating Pat on her unwavering commitment to social justice. When I asked her what she was going to do once she retired, I said, you're just going to just be retired. She says, oh no, she's not finished. She's still working in the community. Next, we recognize Richard Beal, who is the Director and Chief of the Dayton Police Department, and his video.
Well, I have to give credit to my mother. She was the peacemaker in our family. She had an incredible sense of fairness. And in fact, I never heard her say an unkind word against anyone. And then when I went to Elder High School, it was an environment, actually a culture, that was committed to academic excellence, to community service, and also a life based on spiritual principles. Well, actually, my origins with NCCJ go back much further to Cincinnati, all the way to the 80s. We had something called a police youth live-in there that I was instrumental in supporting throughout my career and various assignments, where basically put police officers and youth together and for a weeks-long experience and literally find magic, truly transformation occurring. So I had that history coming here, and also worked with NCCJ on basically a way of measuring diversity and inclusion. It was part of a committee that worked on that in Cincinnati. I had the opportunity to meet Pat Meadows probably very early in my tenure as chief. And then about 2 years ago, we formed a formal partnership to literally partner police and youth together and see if we couldn't recreate some of that magic. Obviously, I've got a little bit of a bias toward the Police and Youth Together initiative, but it's really, I think the key here is not necessarily the initiatives, although they're clearly important. It is about evaluating those initiatives. And so I think what I would say in terms of what's important for NCCJ, it is to do critical assessment of all the programs and to see, are we really having the impact that we want to have in the community? So I think that's what I would say would be important in moving forward. Actually, when I was with the Community Police Partnering Center prior to coming to Dayton, one of my themes for one of the years with my staff was get comfortable with being uncomfortable. We have to interact with members of our community. We need to have cross-cultural experiences. And to do that, we have to get out of our comfort zone. There's truth in every culture, and there's blindness to truth in every culture. My life has been enormously enriched by stepping outside of my own culture and exploring other cultures. For whatever reason, Eastern philosophy and Eastern practices have always captured my imagination. I've been a yoga practitioner for 20+ years and have taught periodically over the past several years. I'm always promoting within our organization and our personnel mindfulness or critical thinking. Let's not move to judgment immediately. Let's try to examine whatever the issue is from multiple perspectives. What can we learn? What can we discover that we are not seeing because we're looking through a very narrow lens? We deal with very traumatic events. So if we don't maintain a sense of balance, if we don't maintain an open perspective, we're not going to be effective in doing what we do. Actions do speak louder than words, and I think Gandhi said it best. Be the change you seek in the world. So all of us need to act in ways to create a more just, more inclusive, greater equality in our community. I don't really think so much it's spreading the message, it's living the message. All of us have a circle of influence. All of us have the ability to have an impact in our individual lives. And so the opportunity is there every day to take some meaningful, thoughtful action to make the kind of community in which we all want to live. So some of us say, well, these problems are too big. Well, operate within your individual realm of influence every day to promote justice, to promote equality, to promote inclusion. Doing that, you'll find, quite honestly, your life and the lives of those around you transformed. I would want to thank all friends, family, colleagues, community members who really have made this journey as police chief for the past 5 years such a rich and rewarding one. And certainly credit goes to them for, I think, making me a better police chief. So I feel like I perhaps am not old enough or have not done enough to be the recipient of this really wonderful award, but I will graciously accept it on behalf of all the humanitarians in our community who work so hard to make Greater Dayton such a great place to live.
Chief Beal, seeing the entire picture and examining it very carefully. As we move on, we want to now acknowledge the remarkable work being done by Jan Lepore Gentleson. She is the founding executive director of East End Community Services.
I'm a product of the 60s. That led to an awareness about injustice that I never had experienced before. During college summers, I worked in migrant camps in Indiana, and I saw poverty up close. And I decided that was what I was going to do. I was going to do something to improve the world before I left it, and that it was really going to be about poverty, that I was going to focus my attention. I can't remember a time when I didn't know about NCCJ. I always knew that you were there doing wonderful work, and that somehow we were all connected. In East Dayton, it used to be very, very homogenous, and it lacked a great deal of diversity. That's changed so much in the last 10 years. The inner East Dayton neighborhoods that we're involved with have become extremely diverse. They are homes now to multiple immigrant and refugee populations, as well as African American and white Appalachian. We've worked really hard to create cultural awareness among all the populations in the community. Where it all comes together is with our kids at our school, in our after-school program, in our evening program. Because we've been real attuned to the changes in the cultural complexity of our community, we knew that the best way to approach that is to engage the kids in really thinking about who they are and who their neighbors are. And the kids get it completely, and it's profound, and it's going to have a profound impact on the future of our community. I think the next big thing in Dayton is moving to the Welcome Dayton infrastructure that enables the community in some kind of a coordinated fashion to reach out to the immigrant communities, the refugee communities that are moving in to Dayton. I think we have a responsibility to help them get up on their feet sooner than later, because there's a lot at stake. I just think we've got to get organized fast. Clearly, one can't eliminate poverty without education. So we took the long view that if our own little part of Dayton is going to be successful, that we had to have a great school. So we went off and got our own state charter. We opened up the East End Community School. After 5 years, and after we had started talking with Dayton Public, and they decided to tear down the old neighborhood school and rebuild the neighborhood school, the Ruskin School, they asked us to be a partner. It's about building community. That's what the arts do for us. That's what these shared experiences allow us to do. And people who are part of a community watch for each other, and they care about one another. It's an old-fashioned concept, but without community, I don't think you can really have peace or justice. I'm deeply honored, of course. I'm grateful to my husband very much, my husband Don Jentelson. It was his support that has really enabled me to feel like I could spend the extra time in the community and do what was part of my DNA. To single me out really is not fair to those with whom I've been working so intensely in the last 15 to 20 years around the issues of social justice. At East End, there are so many heroes and humanitarians. I mean, what they all do is amazing, and I'm just very blessed to be associated with such fine people in the community.
Congratulations to Jan for the work that she does to strengthen the community, to build cultural bridges among our neighbors. As she said, community brings peace and justice. Last, but certainly not least, we have a husband and wife who have made and continue to make a lasting impact in this community. For a lot of people in this room, Bruce Feldman does not need an introduction, but for those who may not know him, I'm going to welcome him to the stage through his video as well. Bruce is the president of Economy Linen and Towel. We also honor his wife, Debbie Feldman, who was recently named president and chief executive officer of Dayton Children's Medical Center. We watch the video.
I've always been aware of diversity, social inclusion, and justice. Growing up Jewish, we've become aware and studied the Holocaust and know what evils there are when there's hatred and bigotry and racism. So because of that background, I think I've always been a bit more interested in those areas. I came back to Dayton in the early 80s after college and after growing up here my entire life, and became aware of the NCCJ as I saw people that I had a great deal of respect for and were friends of mine being honored by the NCCJ over the years. Anybody who wants to have an opportunity to make an impact can find it easily in the Dayton region. Many years ago, I was asked by the Dayton Business Committee and the Dayton Foundation to join the Commission on Minority Inclusion. After serving on that committee, I was asked to lead and co-chair the Dayton Minority Economic Council. We set a strategy to help minority businesses grow and prosper. It's been said before, but a rising tide raises all boats. I think it's important to realize that most people want to do good and do the right thing. Many people haven't been lucky in their lives or haven't caught a break. And if we can help them catch a break and get opportunities, then in their own way they can do good things too, and we'll have a better community. I may seem passionate about working hard for these programs, but the fact is it's the right thing to do. And I've been lucky and blessed in many ways, and to give back to the community and to help other people, I believe is just a part of who I am. I know it's a part of who Debbie is. It's a part of the way we've been brought up, and we find ourselves very lucky to be in a position to be able to try and help other people on a regular basis, and hopefully that will get returned to many people in the future.
Well, I grew up in Washington, D.C. in the 60s and 70s, so that probably says a lot. I'm blessed to have parents that embraced the idea of diversity. They recognized that diversity was not something you could take for granted. I can't remember a time where I think I wasn't aware that we had to work at inclusion and work at diversity if we were going to be successful. I think we build a just society community by community. This is about people to people. It's about individuals recognizing the value and the richness in someone who's different than them. And that's what I love so much about Dayton, because this is a community that cares about other people. I've always been amazed when I've campaigned for, I think, 6 different human services levy, that 70% of this community votes to raise its taxes to help people, other people, not themselves. Folks here just care. They care about what's happening around them. We have work to do, but I think you build a just society step by step, which is person by person, neighborhood by neighborhood, and then community by community. I am so honored to receive this award with my husband, Bruce. It is, usually you receive awards individually. To receive it with Bruce means so much to me, because we really have been partners throughout the last 30 plus years. I think going, through the years, we've each had our own interests, but we've come together with those, and we come home and it takes a half hour, an hour just to go through all the different things we're sharing and we're working on, but we've each tried to support each other. Each of us have taken a little different path, but we've enjoyed learning and sharing what each other is doing.
And our family has been in Dayton for well over 80 years. The Dayton community has been very good to our family, and we've always wanted to give back to the community, and I've seen my parents do that, and that's what Debbie and I both do, and we hope our company has also given back to the community in many ways.
Showing us all the right thing to do. Thank you both for the years of service and commitment to advancing diversity practices and principles. Well, thank you so much for your generosity, for your time and attention this evening. We promised we were going to get everybody out to see the debate, and we held fast to our promise. So it's been a pleasure for me to serve on this side of the podium this year, and I really appreciate the opportunity. I return the podium now to NCCJ Executive Director Mary Tyler. Thank you, and safe travel home.
Wow, what an evening. Thank you so very much to Marcia for an outstanding job. Let's give her another round of applause. Such a special evening. And before I go into some very quick closing remarks, I neglected to mention a couple of names. And so if you will bear with me, I'd like to acknowledge State Senator Peggy Lehner, as well as County Commissioner Debbie Lieberman. If you would just stand again, if we can acknowledge you. And thank you for your service. Also, we'd like to acknowledge the individuals featured in the video. Some of those are doing this for the very first time. So I'd like to ask those young people who participated in the video, as well as the DP&L friends, to please stand so we can say thank you for a job well done. And one other special thank you to Larry Claiborne. If you could stand, Larry. Larry did an incredible job helping us to bring the video to life. I met with him briefly in his office and shared an idea with him, and before I knew it, he was telling me about the great things that are occurring out at Wright State University in their film department. So thank them for doing an outstanding job. I want to again thank you all for being part of this celebration and helping us to honor some incredible county leaders. Let's give them all a huge Miami Valley thank you. Tonight, not only did you learn about how LexisNexis, Pat, Jan, Whitney, Bruce, and Debbie, the chief, and others have and continue to value diversity, you discovered how NCCJ is working to make our region a just and inclusive society for everyone. I trust that you all believe in this important work. For those of you who invested in sponsorships, individual tickets, and in-kind contributions, we say thank you and ask for your continued support. For many of you who were guests tonight of someone else, we trust that you were moved to invest in the work of NCCJ. So tonight, we invite you to make a financial contribution this evening by completing the envelope inside your program. Now, I need everybody to pick up that program. On the end of the booklet, there is an envelope that's just waiting for only you. We ask you to consider a contribution, and you may use your credit card, or you may make a check payable to NCCJ, and if you don't have either with you, you may even make a pledge, and we'll be happy to bill you first thing in the morning. Thank you so much for your consideration. As you depart, we have several volunteers who will be at each end of the great room. Dave Alstrom, if you could move to your position, Lisa Smith, Robert Grisham, and Sean Sibbing, who I think will be helping us with their little handy baskets, so they're waiting for your envelope. Please share what you learned with others. And as the chief said, more importantly, live what you learned tonight. Shakespeare reminds us that they do not love that do not show love. Let us begin a movement of celebrating one another, opening hearts and minds. Let's continue to show more love towards one another. Thank you again, and safe travels. God bless.
I believe the children are our future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Show them all the beauty they possess inside.